You don't have a lead generation problem. You've probably got a numbers problem. For most coaches over 40, have done things the same way for a very long time. And quite often they overlook the numbers. Perhaps that's you right now. You're scared of the numbers. The numbers, the metrics, financial decisions, budgeting, whatever you want to call. But in your own business, it's important that you understand what's happening through every single marketing channel you have. So people come into your world, they come into your ecosystem through various means. They then come through your ecosystem and they pop out the other side, either as a client or a non-existent client, and you never see them again. But if you don't have a handle on the actual numbers, you're always just going to think, oh, it's a lead generation problem. Oh, I just need more leads and, I'm going to make more money. Quite often you have everything you need within your business, right? So quite often people will just want to add more leads without first understanding whether the structure underneath, the systems underneath are set up to receive these people so that they can have the best outcome for themselves and for you as a business owner. So step one, make sure that your underlying structure, your systems are in place, your automations are in place, your people's in place, your SOPs are in place, the framework is in place, so that when you receive these people, there's an absolute customer journey so that you can have a very high conversion rate, which then in turn improves your bottom line, but gives your customer also outstanding results. They stay for a very, very long time and they can refer. I want to give you an example of somebody we worked with who said they had a lead generation problem. Okay, so this is your typical funnel is going to look like something like this, okay, where people come in through the top and then they go through these different layers, right? There's a layer here, a filtering process of some sort depending on your own personal business, and another layering system, and another layering system, and another layering system, okay? And then ultimately at some point in time, people are popping out the bottom, they become your clients, they pay you, and everybody is very, very happy. What we did for this client, they said they had a lead gen problem, is the funnel looked something like this. Okay, so again, leads through the top. Okay, and then probably ask, why is that so narrow there? That's narrow for a reason. And then you get clients popping out the bottom. So just think of it as an inverted funnel to some extent. All right, so what he was saying, lead problem. Let's just get rid of this. Said had a lead problem, but looked at the business and it wasn't a lead problem. Okay, their initial reaction was it's a lead problem. And I said, no, well, let's have a look at your metrics and see if it is actually a lead problem or is it something else. So these were the numbers basically. And we were given very, very short notice. So this was only over about 7 days or so. And the budget was only $700. But in that time, so that's 7 days, $700, 50 leads, which means each lead cost approximately $14. All right. Then 50 leads that looked at the offer, was a low ticket offer, 21-day offer. 18 people took up the offer. Then after 21 days, let's call it 21 days, 15 left, 3 stayed behind. Okay, of the 3, 1 stayed for 3 months, and 2 at month 6 was still there. Okay, so at surface level, you could look at this and say, well, there's a lot of things going on here and a lot of things going wrong here. Okay, so they weren't very happy with me when I spoke to them. To be fair to me, though, they didn't implement everything I suggested. But anyway, it doesn't matter. They weren't happy because what they were doing is they were focusing on this number here, 2. Okay? They said, we got 50 leads, which we thought were quite expensive. Right? And of the 50, in effect, we only have 2 clients. So ask yourself in your own business, if you had 50 leads coming in and you ended up with 2 clients after 6 months, would that be a good result or a bad result? Well, a lot depends on your offer, etc., etc. Right, let's just clear this. So you've got the background of what's going on. So 2 clients. So my question was, how much of these clients spent with you now after 6 months? And the answer was $3,000. $3,000 after 6 months. If we just stop there, right? Remember their spend was $700. They've generated $3,000 in 6 months. Is that a good return on your money or not? If the bank said to you, give me $700 and in 6 months' time I'm going to give you $3,000 back. Yes or no? Well, hopefully you said, everybody just said yes, and yes, and yes, and yes again. If anybody offers you $3,000 after 6 months for $700 investment, I'd hope you'd say every day of the week. My next question was, and I'd known this from the initial consultation, is how long do clients typically stay? So in their business model, it's usually anywhere from 5 years to 10 years. Okay, so at the lower end, I said to them, right, so in year 1, $6,000 is coming in, right? And then repeat that for the next 5 years, and ultimately $30,000 in 5 years. So suddenly you've spent $700, and over a 5-year period, you've created a $30,000 income. That's just a one-off. When I showed them this, the whole mindset shifted and said, oh my goodness, never ever thought about it like that. Okay? Then I said to them, had you followed what I told you to do, which was repeat the process every month. Okay, so if they didn't, like I said, there's a lot wrong here, but let's focus on the positives. I said, if you just repeated everything you did originally for 12 months, you basically would have got, all things being equal, 2 clients per month for 12 months, etc., etc. You would have had 24 clients. All right, let's get rid of this. Don't you like this iPad? Pretty useful, eh? Okay, so they would have had 24 clients. Assuming they all stayed for 5 years. Right? We know that the 2 were worth 30,000, so the 24 are worth $360,000 in 5 years. Right, they've got a high retention rate. Once people are in their system, people stay for years and years. No reason for them to leave when they get great results. Okay, $700 spend. every month for 12 months would have been an $8,400 spend. Again, I'll ask you this question. If somebody said to you, give me 8,400 and in 5 years' time, I'm going to give you 360, or I'm going to give you 70 odd thousand every year, right? Plus minus, just rounding these figures off, folks. So don't come at me and say, well, the first month was only 2 clients and then 4, etc. I know that. I'm just giving you rough figures here. Okay. So would you take and invest 8,400 to get 360,000? Hopefully you're going to say yes every day of the week. Remember, this is only one part of the funnel that I was trying to explain to them. So in this particular example, it's not a lead generation problem, because they didn't want to do anything more, because they said to themselves, oh, it only produced 2 clients basically. So let me just stop sharing my screen. Okay, so they, in their minds was, oh, that was a useless campaign because we only generated 2 clients. But when I showed them the numbers there, that's why the numbers never ever lie. You know, in a box, there's only room for a number, there's no room for an excuse. A lot of people shy away from the numbers, shy away from the metrics, because it's reality, it's in your face, you can't hide from it. You know, when we're talking, we can use any excuse under the book. We can say, I didn't have the time, you don't understand, I've got this much on my plate. That's fine. But your business, profit and loss, is what keeps you in business. So you've got to understand your numbers. If you're one of those person that shies away from the numbers, embrace the numbers, because they tell you a totally different story. Now, within that funnel, there's probably 4 or 5 or 6 different fixes, which I'll explain in a different video altogether. But this was simply just showing an unhappy client one moment thinking, well, the lead generation only produced 2 clients, versus, oh wow, I only spent 700 to make X amount of dollars. And by the way, most of that 700 we recovered in the first 21 days anyway. So in effect, they spent $0 to make the 30 over 5 years, or $0 to, at that particular point in time, which was the $3,000. Right? Totally different conversation, totally different mindset, totally different way of doing business, but you've got to be on top of your numbers. Hope this helps you.